all that bullshit was like made up.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
Of course it was.
You know what isn't made up?
What's that?
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Pixel It. My name is Kevin. With me, as always, is Phil. And on today's show, we are finishing Warhammer 40k Fire Warrior. Let's do it. It's written by Simon Spurrier. It's starring the Tau.
The Tau!
We get some mecha action in this chunk of the book.
We get like multiple division mech stuff. Like we got a little human mech. We got some Tau mech. Like
we have a fucking Titan.
Yeah, we got a Titan. It's pretty cool. No, I think they're. Well, let's just get into it. Let's put the body in the marsh.
Let's put the body in the marsh. There's a lot of bodies.
So many bodies.
There's so many bodies, and so many bodies yet to come. So let's just go ahead and put this body in the marsh.
Brace yourself.
That's a big fucking dog, man.
Grab your grass seed. We're gonna need to cover up all these bodies in this marsh. All right, so we're starting in chapter 6. We've got Governor Severus, who is just James Bond villaining all over Admiral Constantine and Aun Lokash, like just his prisoners, and he is just telling them all about his backstory, all about his master plan. Basically, he has been, listening to these whispers of this demon in his ear, promising him power and all that shit. So,
and Damonhood.
Damonhood, yeah, that classic English AE demon, the demons, and they've been basically there's this shrine of chaos, chaos, undiluted chaos, undivided chaos, all four gods working together to do a full dark crusade, and they end up on this planet and they try to summon a demon of who is it? It's Tzeentch. Tzeentch demon, but still serving all four.
Tarkax the Defiler.
Yes,
who is a Tzeentch demon.
Yeah,
but he's pro all the other gods.
Very progressive demon. Super into all the gods. You know, this is the demon with the coexist bumper sticker on its Miata.
The coexist demon.
We can all get along. Well, we all want the downfall of the Imperium of Man, don't we, guys? Come on.
Listen, the change demon, the change god, love him. The blood god, love him.
Love him. I even like that stinky death god and the weird one who keeps touching his nipples.
Yes, so was Slaanesh.
Slaanesh. They're all cool.
They're all cool. Slaanesh is basically the Cenobite god.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Slaanesh is the Cenobite god. Just fully formed. We have such pleasures to show you.
We have such pleasures to show you.
Yes, it's beautiful. By the way, before we go any further, I should tell you the other night I've been reading to Emily's belly every evening because
So you read Hellbound Heart?
No, I wish that would be amazing. Oh, I should because it's my turn to pick the book, and she picked like. I read her one of my favorite books, and she requested one of her favorite books, and we just finished it. And I picked something brutal, and Hellbound Heart's only like 100 pages. I hadn't read to her belly in a day or so, and because we haven't picked a new book yet, and she just wanted to go to sleep. She was exhausted, and she said, "Are you going to read?" And I said, "Yeah, I gotta finish up this Warhammer book." And she went, "Oh, that's perfect. Could you read it out loud?" Just for a little while, because I'm not really going to be listening, but like I like your voice is kind of soothing and it'll put me to sleep. And I went, okay, but it's like an alien race in this, so there's a lot of words that are gonna make no sense. She goes, it doesn't matter, I'm not really paying attention. So I'm like reading it, it's like Vrek Tong Data positions the drone mines of the and like it's. She told me the next morning. I went, and before you know it, she was asleep. It worked.
Yeah.
And the next morning I went, did that do anything for you? And she goes, oh yeah, the words were meaningless. It was perfect. It's like I was speaking in tongues, and she was like, oh, that's right.
Tarkax the Defiler rises.
It was so surreal. And I'm idiot me. I'm sitting there like correcting myself. I'm like, no, that's not how you say it. It's Avrorex. Who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
She's not listening.
I like the title Explorator instead of Explorer.
Oh, yeah.
Explorator Carnegie stumbled upon...
everything has to be Romanesque, you know?
Yeah, Romanesque. It's not like, that's not actually, it's not necessarily even the right Latin, but it's just...
No, but you give it that extra syllable. Yeah,
you give it the vibes of Latin and you move on.
Yeah, I mean, that's the Ultramarines. They are just Rome as Space Marines. So
yeah, so
they're pretty intense.
Dorator the Explorator. I need a 40K.
Can you see the heresy? That's right. It's everywhere.
Horus, no heresying.
Oh, that's gotta be it. That's gotta be a thing.
That's a T-shirt right there.
That's a T-shirt. Yeah. So basically, there was this great war that happened on the planet between the Eldar and the Chaos Undivided, and the Eldar couldn't beat the demon, but they knew they could like seal him away. So this demon's been sealed away for 3,000 years, and Severus is going to bring him back in 3 hours. That's what he lets us know. Meanwhile, in the naval section up in space, one of the captains hears Ardius's message about you gotta blow up the enduring blade. There is nothing to be saved here. He gets that message and gets ready to start blowing it the shit up. Kai's basically has this weird factory restart in the drop pod. He's on his way down, and he's just
somebody took a pin and inserted it into the back of his ear and did a whole factory reset.
And they even literally referenced the idea of have you tried turning it off and on again?
Yes.
He's like the technicians of his home planet would say if you turn it off and turn it back on and it still isn't working, then it's broken, you know, or something like that.
Right.
It's like, so he literally has a quick moment of like meditation and just kind of refresh on his way down. The Tau watch as the Purgius ship destroys the Enduring Blade. It's they've all. Again, we've got this kind of ceasefire, so everyone watches as the Enduring Blade gets blown to shit.
Standing there saluting.
Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, they're humming the national anthem.
The national anthem is playing.
Yeah.
Flags do go up at half mast on top of the ships. They mention, I think.
Yes, something like that. They do fly some sort of morning flag.
They put up like a half-mast flag or something like that.
It is, and I mean, in this world, the whole thing with technology is so weird because, especially if you've read Horus Heresy, where it starts 10,000 years ago, and the whole point of the Emperor is he's a less toxic Sam Harris. He just wants to bring like atheistic peace to the world.
Sure.
And now it's such a nice turn that now 10,000 years later, the message has been warped completely out of whack, and machines and that sort of thing.
And that's the thing. So this is a question I've had.
Yeah,
because I read the first Horus Heresy book. The Emperor is alive and well. All of his kids are alive and well. You know, Horus, etc. I know 50 books later, the Emperor, both Horus, what's that?
More. It's like 75 or 100.
The Emperor dies, right? Dies. And so does Horus.
Stasis.
And so does Horus. And so I've done like little digging and like, okay, so the Golden Throne is basically, he's on this throne. He's mostly just a skeleton flesh man with a little bit of flesh hanging off of him, with a lot of tubes and pipes just like running into him to keep him alive.
Yeah, he's a vegetable for all intents and purposes.
He's not speaking at all.
No.
And so he's alive in the sense that he is on life support.
Yes.
and he is a greater being that requires some sort of like sacrifice to keep
They
alive.
sacrifice 1,000 psychers to him a day to keep him alive,
And
to keep him
psych-
in this middle ground of alive and dead.
Yeah. Because I know he's been alive since the beginning of humanity. Like that's
Yes.
kind of his thing. All right. So it's now 40K and there's a religion based around him. Is it a possibility that there's like he is locked in there and just screaming at the fact that it is a religion around him now?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's definitely. Yeah. You can't know.
Yeah, you can't know. By the way, being locked in is probably one of my greatest fears in my life.
Absolutely. That's
If you don't know what it means you are 100% conscious and you don't have control over your body anymore. Like you're locked in. You're in your brain.
Yeah.
Your brain is fully fine.
But your body isn't responding to it.
Isn't responding.
That's hell on earth. And that's basically, I believe that's the idea. And yeah, I think there's a good chance of that. And I think the most interesting thing that the Horus Heresy does is with chaos, is that these half of the Space Marine chapters break off. And if you're just paying attention to 40K, it all seems like they're just evil with different flavors of evil. Like, well, they're obsessed with death and they're obsessed with fear. And these guys are pirates and these guys are, snakes and
Right.
spies. And but the Horus Heresy actually sheds light on each one of them having their own reason for breaking off, like a very specific reason for breaking off with the Emperor. And a lot of them are totally valid. That's the scariest part about it. So a lot of them are totally valid. And one of them is the Alpha Legion, which, spoilers for anyone who hasn't read Legion, the Alpha Legion believe that there is basically the only way that like peace can thrive on the planet, in the galaxy or something like that, is if the Emperor is allowed to die. So they do. So a lot of their. So they're actually pro-Emperor in a way, but they're like the people. They're like Terry Schiavo's husband demanding to
Really,
let him off
Warhammer
life
40K
support.
is a metaphor for the whole Terry Schiavo.
That's exactly
situation.
it. Yeah, and so a lot of people, and so one of the war cries of the Alpha Legion is for the Emperor, and many Space Marines interpret them as them mocking them. But they actually are doing this for the sake of the Emperor, because they need to let him die for there to be peace in the universe. So they're bad guys, but they're not, and they all have different.
Yeah, that seems like the best. Like, and so they're a break off of the Space Marines.
Yeah, they're one of the heretic. They're the Chaos Marines.
But they're Chaos Marines, or are they
yes,
just
they don't worship any one god, but they aligned themselves with that side of things, and they use chaos to those ends. But just like you said with the idea of it being religion in general, 10,000 years later, a lot of shit has changed. So the motivations have changed for a lot of people. And a lot of people, I'm sure, don't realize that was the original goal. But yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I'm sure that if the Emperor is locked in, if he's conscious in any way, that he is just going, oh my fucking God, this sucks.
Right.
That's got to be very, very frustrating, especially for the guy who's supposed to be like the greatest human being who ever lived, and everything's fucked up.
Because the irony of ironies is that, at least what I can, and shit changes from what probably changes over the course of the books, is that the idea of worshiping or creating religious sects within the Ultramarines starts within Horus's Legion.
Kind of. Horus's
The
Legion
Luna Wolves, right? Like, kind
What's
of
that?
start. The Luna Wolves start.
Yeah, the
like,
Luna Wolves, Sons of Horus. they're like the first people to kind of start breaking off. They're all breaking off, but they're like the War Master Horus is kind of the head honcho that they all kind of admire and circle around. It's the word bearers that are almost excommunicated by the emperor, and their Primarch is almost excommunicated basically because they worship the emperor as a god, and the emperor is still alive and going, what the fuck are you doing? This is not how it works.
Right.
And that betrayal warps and twists them.
Yeah.
And so they're the ones who like really treat it as a religion.
Right.
And that's the irony, is that they set that in motion, and they kind of won when you think about it.
I mean,
you know?
the ultimate heresy was the emperor 100% lost.
Yeah.
And his empire was turned into a from just straight up fascism to religion fascism.
Yeah. That of fascism.
And you know, he didn't want any extra stuff attached to that fascism.
No, he wanted good old fashioned vanilla atheist fascism.
Atheist fascism.
And now it's theocratic terrorism now.
Yeah.
So it's a grim dark world.
It's a grim dark world.
These are our main characters.
Yes, these are our main characters.
All right, so let's see. Kais wakes up in the drop pod, and he kind of has this is one of many. We're gonna get a lot of his internal monologues, wondering about what's happening to him. He's losing himself to the Montau in his belief, and he starts wondering if the battle madness basically is a gift. If this is a present for him that he should embrace it or not. He's not sure. Then he gets contacted by Ardius, who he has teamed up with, the Ultramarine, and then he starts seeing the Chaos Space Marines killing and torturing different civilians, and it's kind of well done in the sense, for as gruesome as this book is, when it comes to the civilians, it kind of lets you fill in the blanks. And
sure.
Kai's disgust at it kind of tells you everything you need to know. And Ardius tells Kai's that basically he's got to have faith in their goal there. And Kai's
got to have the faith.
Yeah, which would be one thing. But
right.
Kai's points out that he talks shit about the Emperor, and basically just like George Michael points out that your Emperor God is dead, and maybe you shouldn't place too much faith in that. And he gets the moment when you're a teenager and you go too far with your dad, like you push his button, and your dad, if he's anything like my dad, just gets really quiet and kind of stares you down, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna die now.
And as soon as you said whatever it was, you knew it. You were like, what?
That was.
I would like to put that back in my mouth.
Yeah, that was a step, and that's basically what he gives him. Gives him that look, and then tells him. He basically says, he's like, after this is over, we're not done. It's like we're gonna take care of this, but after it's done, I'm gonna kick your ass. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Like
I'm gonna kill you, Zeno.
Yeah, and then we end that section with Ardius starting to instruct Kais on his first mission. Meanwhile, speaking of mechs, Lucia is not standing behind an observing monitor this time around. Lucia and a team of crisis suits are dropping to the planet. So we've got your rank and file mechs. He almost gets himself killed in possibly the funniest way ever, because they are literally dropping onto the planet, and you're supposed to hit your jetpacks at a certain point to slow your descent and presumably do the superhero pose. Yeah, and
superhero landing. Yeah,
exactly. And he is on the comm with somebody who is talking to him about Kais, and basically that they can't find him, they don't know where he is. And he's paying so much attention to that basically one of the other team members has to be like, hey, dude. And he looks down and the ground is coming up at him at 1,000 miles per hour. And he has to hit the handbrake really and basically craters into the planet. He's okay. but it could have been very, very ugly, and for a stupid reason, especially because he's the leader there. He's leading this team, and if your sergeant almost goes down because he's busy worrying about some dead kid, one's faith gets tested a little bit in that situation. A little bit. Yeah. So we've got Artius contemplating the chaos as he hunts them and kills them, and suddenly we get this huge explosion, and we get like 3 or 4 separate sections within this chapter.
Oh yeah, I actually liked this little like Rashomon thing where it was like it was felt by this person.
Yeah, this explosion is felt by all these different people in all these different places. Yeah, and a lot of them die because of the explosion, all that shit. But it's more opportunities to introduce you to somebody who you didn't know
who was
before.
just about to die. The first one actually, it reminded me of Return of the Living Dead. Do you remember the ending to Return of the Living Dead?
I never saw Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, you got to watch Return of the Living Dead.
I might have to do that.
The ending doesn't really spoil anything for without, like, it's not important if you don't have context anyway. So basically, a couple of the survivors are up on an addict, and the zombies are like yelling and screaming for them and clawing at the door, knocking at the door when an explosion happens, and it's an atomic bomb.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And it wipes it. So it's like this first one reminded me a little bit of that, where this woman is like fearing for her life in her house. Yeah. And the Chaos Marines are outside and they're banging on the door and they have the chainsaw ready to go. And then it cuts, Yeah,
that's exactly it. And we've been hearing all of this mad laughing and everything like that. And we find out that it was all ruse. Basically, they wanted people to. They were trying to draw the Tau and the Space Marines towards them with pillaging and looting and all that sort of thing. And it was a trap set by the Iron Warriors, which are our mech-heavy Chaos Marines. We're gonna meet a lot of the chapters and all the gods, frankly. In this book, which I think was an interesting choice, but I'll get into my thoughts on that later after we finish it.
I was wondering what you were going to think about the fact that this book has everything in it.
Yes.
Ultimately, like it's like, we're getting all of it. And it's like
we're getting everything, and
it's like the entire history of Warhammer kind of condensed into one book.
And I wonder about the motivations. Well, I'll get into it after we've wrapped it up. But we get a brief moment of the demon Tarthax anticipating his release. Basically, knowing we find out that he's been manipulating Severus from the very beginning, constantly looking for somebody corruptible that he could talk into doing this, and Severus fell for it.
Like 25 years ago.
Yeah, this has been going on for decades. So Kais, this is an interesting. I liked this part. Kais finds what appears to him to be a temple within a warehouse. Which I was like, what the fuck are they talking about at first? I didn't understand this at all. He goes into this warehouse and he finds what appears to be a temple. It's got spires and all kinds of the embellishments of a temple, and it's such a confusing thing until he sees, well, it's kind of leg-like over here, and those are kind of arm-like. Oh, those are arms. Those are legs. This is a Titan. And I love this because a Titan is basically, it's a kaiju in robot form. It's a city stomping vehicle, basically a walker. And he has been taught since he started as a fire warrior that they're just myths, that those things don't exist.
Those things don't exist. They are just, they're just there to scare kids.
Right. Yeah. Like basically it's like, this is Imperial propaganda. They don't actually have these things. And I thought that was a really cool touch because for all of the mechs that the Tau have, none of them are as big as the Titans. So he is complete, and his mission, as we find out, is basically Artia sent him to like go find this thing and destroy it.
Yeah,
whatever it is,
stop
just
it.
stop him. Stop
Yeah.
it. And he didn't know it was a Titan. He didn't know he was sitting. And so he's just sitting there, kind of contemplating his own existence, like the
Right.
size of the Titan.
Every decision that has led me to this point.
Yeah. And the sheer size of it and his mission kind of gives him an existential meltdown where it goes beyond just like, I can't do this. What is my purpose in life?
I'd looking up pictures of Titans and I don't know if they mention the class of the Titan.
I don't think they do.
There's like the Imperator class Titan, which has basically like its top is basically like the Notre Dame is like sitting on top of it, like an actual church or something,
totally.
and then underneath, and it's carrying that on its back. It's so wild.
It's crazy, and like these things are so huge, they require like a crew of dozens of people to run the damn thing,
right?
And they have they have a machine spirit within them, which is tended to, and he's been given a prototype gun to blow this thing up, and so we're left with him going, okay, let's blow this thing up, I guess. I'll figure it out. And and then briefly we get Artius wakes up after the explosion, and his backup tells him that they've basically got coordinates for the HQ, for the warp portals of chaos where it all seems to be concentrating from. And then we cut to, and I loved this scene. I thought this was fucking excellent. We cut to a member of the Death Guard. There's another Space Marine chapter who they worship Nurgle. They're obsessed with death, disease, rot.
Which Nurgle is just the silliest name.
I love Nurgle. Nurgle might be my favorite Chaos God because he's actually very funny and as far as Chaos Gods go, kind of a nice guy.
Yeah.
He
Grandfather Nurgle.
Yeah, Grandfather Nurgle. He really does see his diseases and as a blessing. Like he's like, all these cool aren't these cool? Like it's like he's a geek forcing his hobbies on you.
He's like he's like a bug guy, you know?
Yeah.
Like
yeah. It's a bark scorpion. It'll kill you in 5 seconds. It's amazing.
Isn't it cool?
Isn't that cool? It's not.
Please.
You guys, anybody who wants to know what that's like, ask my wife. Bless her heart. There are so many times that she's looked at me. I realize I've been rambling on. She goes, okay, baby. All right.
Hi,
like,
welcome
all
home.
right.
Welcome to my apartment on our first date. Here's all my praying mantises.
True story. That worked out real good.
Hashtag true story.
Hashtag true story. There was real quick. There is a unit for chaos that was I think it's Chaos Beast, and I think it's a Nurgling kind of thing. But the whole idea is that it's basically it's huge. It's the size of a tank, and it's a puppy for all intents and purposes. It's a horrible, horrible puppy, and it sees people and it just wants to play with them. The problem is playing is it will tear you limb from limb and shred you. But that's very Nurgle to me. It's like, I'm just having fun. We're just
having fun. Why aren't we? Yeah.
Why are you mad? And why aren't you playing back anymore? And so the Death Guard is basically in the pilot seat of this Titan and corrupts it with the power of Nurgle. And the machine spirit in it used to be called the Imperio Prince Nebulae Draconis. And that is about as goddamn Imperium as it gets.
Right.
He corrupts the machine spirit within it, takes it over, and the machine spirit demands that it be allowed to give itself a new name, which is now Machina Dragonbile. Good change.
Good change.
Good change. So we've got these Nurgle Death Guard Space Marines taking over this thing, and then a shot rings out, and we cut to the next scene. We've got Lucia and his team zoning in on the Ethereal's location. They're trying to find where it is. When Lucia realizes this is basically all of their first experience with chaos, and he realizes it isn't just a clever name, that they are chaotic, and so he realizes they're going to have to widen their search perimeters a little bit.
Right.
And so he sends them out to do that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So then we get Kai's doing exactly what he said he was going to do, climbing the Titan, Shadow of Colossus style, and basically like leaving bombs here, blowing up crew, basically just making his way up this damn thing, which is hilarious. And then he makes it into the command nave, basically the head of the thing, and he's confronted by Karaz the Violator, another one of our our Chaos Marines, who worships Khorne, the god of blood, death, and insoluble fiber.
Blood.
And
blood for the blood god, Khorne for the poop throne.
Exactly, that's exactly it. And in what is what starts out as this harrowing moment turns quickly hilarious when Karaz the Violator goes into a bloodlusting berserk fury and kills everyone on deck but Kai's. Basically kills everybody that is on the Titan with him, because he just completely loses his grip on who's the good guy and who's a bad guy.
Yeah, he's like, and he kills everybody.
And
I love it. It's like Kai is just like steps out of the shadows, like, is it gonna be that easy?
Yeah.
And then just like shoots the guy.
Yeah, and it works. And he even says that he could see like a look of gratitude on the Tao's face.
Disbelieving gratitude.
Yeah. Thanks. That was great. So that leads to Kai's finding the Titan pilot, our Chaos Marine who's taken over, and he just kind of leaves a bomb in his lap and gets the hell out of Dodge. And that's the end of chapter 6. Chapter 7 starts just like chapter 6 with Severus in the ritual chamber, we get details about the chants that they've been doing, the rituals they've been doing to pull this whole thing off. And I thought it was really interesting because he's had to go through like so many servitors to do this, because the servitors they lose
their minds.
They lose their minds reading the chaos text, and they destroy themselves so they don't have to deal with all of it, because it's unnatural. One of the things they talk about with chaos a lot is that you see shapes that shouldn't exist and colors that shouldn't exist, and it's pretty cool.
Real Lovecraft stuff.
Very, very Lovecraftian. Yeah.
Servitors. So there's two things. There's like the servitors, which are basically like the Imperium's version of the Borg.
Kind of, yeah. They're like criminals and that kind of thing, who their bodies are used to. They're
like
kinda,
all mech'd up. They got cables and stuff.
But they're mindless at the same time.
Yeah,
but not mindless enough apparently.
And then there's servitor. There's the servo skulls, right? Which are just floating skulls that are like little basically PDAs. Like
very much so. Yes. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah. Just little helpers.
Little helpers. They're just there. Yeah. So, the servitors, One of it was just like, I was like, oh my God. When one of them, cut his own fingers off so that he didn't have to write any more of this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. They're kind of pathetic creatures that exist to serve the Imperium, and they couldn't hack this shit. So he said like the most they would last is like a month. That's the best you could hope for. So let me see. Oh, we get we find out that there are priests there of each of the 4 chaos gods. Yep. We learned the difference between all of them. You get kind of like a introduction to the chaos gods here.
Each of the priests are like kind of avatar-ish of their god. Like the Nurgle priest is like falling apart and decaying while
Right.
still alive. The change priest is always bubbling and
shifting and
shifting,
ethereal
and the blood priest just looks like a butcher. He's just a butcher.
yeah. He's got like a cleaver and like
Cleaver
a leather
and
smock
the butcher apron.
Yeah.
And the other one,
Slanesh
is just, he's cutting his arms and rubbing his nipples and doing all that stuff.
That's exactly it.
He's a Cenobite, basically.
You see, I mean, that's what they do. They're really that. And we also have the Admiral Constantine and the Aeon there, who their energies are being drawn from them as part of the ritual sacrifice. In my notes here, in the next section, they start with Ardius rides his hoopty through the war zone, which he had been on a land speeder, and it was just blown to shit. And it basically describes that anytime he passes someone on the battle zone, people follow him with their eyes because the implication is that the thing is so beat to shit that they can't believe it's still working.
Friend and foe alike just watch it go by because they're surprised that it's still functioning.
It's kind of hilarious. And as an ultramarine, which is one of the most dignified of the space, he feels he's like, oh my god, this is embarrassing.
He is driving around in like a 97 Kia that has been each panel is a different color at this point.
Yep.
And it's just been picked and pulled.
Patches on the tires and
It's the Kia of Theseus at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. Is it still a Kia after all these years? No one knows.
No one knows.
So he eventually finds Kai's and he's about to scold him. Because he's like, I told you to take care of it, not to wait for me. And we get a moment worthy of a 1997 action film.
Cool guys don't look at explosions. And Kai's is, according to the 90s action aesthetic, the coolest being alive.
Exactly.
Because he just goes, boop, boop.
Yeah.
Boom. And remote detonates at fucking Titan.
Yeah. And Ardius is like, oh, well, that was pretty good, I guess. That was pretty sick, actually. Okay, great.
So basically, this book, by the way, at this point, I'm realizing this book is verging on action buddy comedy. This is we're getting into Rush Hour. Die Hard 3, we're getting into that Lethal Weapon. We're getting into that territory with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Between Ardius and Kai's.
Yeah. So, we get a moment where the drones come back to Lucia and are like, hey, we think we've picked up a signal for both Kai's and for the Aeon. Meanwhile, Kai's has another tiny little daddy issue fueled crisis on their way to wherever they're going.
I love this. That basically the thing that's been fueling Kai's this entire time is, am I good enough for you now, Father?
That's literally it. This is Daddy Warrior is what this is. It's not fun. It's just his dad fucked him up bad, and that's been fueling this whole thing. And he has this little meltdown on the way there. He's looking at the wafer that his dad gave him, the little picture and all that stuff, and he's like, I haven't lived up to my father, all that shit.
And Ardius is not listening or paying attention. He's like,
no.
He just notices when he cracks the wafer. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? And Kai's is like, nothing. And Ardius is like, I don't care.
Ardius looks at him in the eye really harshly and goes, I'm your daddy now, Kai's. And that's the sentence that launches 1,000 ships.
That's the sentence that launches 1,000 ships. Yep.
The Chaos Priests give their lives for the sacrifice, each one of them dying in their own graphic, horrifying way.
It was so gross.
Yes, it's really gross.
So the Nurgle priest just finally decays and falls apart. Slaanesh priest. What happens? Like, what happens to the Slaanesh priest?
Slaanesh, I don't quite remember.
I remember the butcher corn priest.
The butcher dies like a Diablo boss. Like he explodes into.
He explodes into like a column of meat and blood.
Yeah.
And the change priest keeps changing and bubbling until he kind of like loses form and shape and melts.
Yeah. It's a very entertaining section.
It's like, this is gross. And you know what? It feels like I don't know why I was thinking this feels like it would have been in a 90s point and click game.
Oh,
why does this feel like that? Because it just feels like scenes from like the Indiana Jones games.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Or Tormentum or something like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we find out that there are 20 minutes left for the ritual to get through. Let's see. Kais and Ardius enter the cavern, the HQ area, and promptly split up. Kais kills a couple of Chaos Raptors, which are jump pack Marines, basically. Let's see. Oh, we get a moment where Tarkax, the demon, out in the Ethereum, still waiting to be fully summoned, finds the soul of an astropath. And astropaths are psychic sensitive members of the Imperium who, from a young age, are basically trained to help fly ships through the warp.
So this is just one of the things that Warhammer took from Dune, right?
Kind of, yeah.
It's because I feel like there was the Pilots Guild or whatever are these like psychics that fly ships or something like that in Dune?
Yes, you need their psychic abilities to travel through the warp safely, and even then, it's difficult.
Which is funny because we get Tarkax later. Well, already we've had Severus talk about how like the admiral is being corrupted, but he can't corrupt Kovash.
Right.
It's like he's incorruptible. Like there's no use for a race that's incorruptible, right?
Yeah.
And like he's throwing everything he can at the Aeon, and the Aeon's like, can't do it.
Yeah. They got no use for the Tau. Well, at least for most of the Tau.
At least for most of the Tau.
Most of the Tau. He finds the soul of an astropath that's in the warp and eats it, basically reducing the astropath to a vegetable. Kais ends up. I have in my notes here. Kais ends up in the swamps of sadness. He drops into this like marshy area and has a sad boy.
He's like, I'm sad and I'm going to die. I'm going to lay down and die here.
Yeah, he literally should have had like a 12-year-old boy with a rope around him pulling at him going, fight the sadness, guys!
Fight the sadness, guys!
Because he's just slowly sinking down.
Yeah,
and he's like,
Artax,
he's starting to.
Yeah, by the way,
he is our Artax.
That's a Warhammer name if I ever heard one.
Artax is totally a Warhammer name. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Poor Artax.
Poor Artax. You know what? The thing a lot of people don't realize. I read the book that the first two Neverending Stories were based on. If you put 1 and 2 together,
it's like the full book. Yeah.
It doesn't end where it does in the first movie. And in the book, Artax can talk. So it's so much worse because he dies, he sinks, and the whole time he's telling Artax, he's telling Atreyu, just leave me, I can't do it, and I'm too sad, and like just like telling him, like dictating his death to Atreyu. It's so. It was then that our faithful companion realized that this book was originally written in German, and the shock was so huge that it knocked a piece of paper off my desk.
That is, I am not surprised finding out that the Neverending Story was originally written in German by a German author, I assume.
Yes.
Who just writing about anthropomorphized animals being sad and drowning, not just in water, but a fucking swamp.
A swamp. That's a body we didn't want to find in the marsh.
That is a body we talk a lot about bodies that were put in the marsh. We never really wanted to find Artak's body.
We didn't want Artax in the marsh.
In the marsh.
No. Let's see. Kais finds Admiral Constantine, who has lost it. He has snapped. He's struggling with a possession, clearly. Tells Kais that he knows how to fight, quote, the darkness. And implies that he explains to him how to do it, and then transforms into a demon that Kais kills by literally pulling its fucking spine out.
Yep.
Which is pretty dope.
He transforms into a warp monster, which the first time I read this in the first Horus Heresy book, where like a random space marine is just like walking along and then transforms into a warp monster. I'm like, what is happening? I don't understand this. Yeah. Like, where is this coming from?
They used to have chaos beasts that you could buy. I think they still have these models, but they were like, they were a couple of chaos beasts you could make, and everyone had to have them because they were like a couple of bodies, like bases for the bodies, and then just like 5 sprues of random ass shit, tentacles, eyes, teeth, and you could just build it any goddamn way you wanted.
Right.
And that's it's just this chaotic mess of a thing. So he pulls the thing's spine out of its ass. And we get a brief moment where Ardius seems to fall on his own side of the cavern, seems to fall to a...
Seems like he gets shot in the head.
Yeah. Finally, the chapter ends with Lucia and his squad finding the HQ and the discarded display wafer that used to belong to Kais. So they seem to have found where our hero is. And then we get to chapter 8, which is like 5 pages long. Which, if you've followed along, these chapters are long as shit, and this chapter is very brief,
very brief,
but effective. So, in the beginning of chapter 8, the demon basically betrays Severus, which big old surprise. Big surprise. He gets
surprise.
Yeah, he gets impatient, and Severus describes like the part of his brain that is him basically getting shoved to the back, and the rest of everything being taken over by the demon. And he wants to basically he has enough strength to basically finish the ritual on his own, I guess.
Yeah.
And he also reveals that let's see. Yeah, and so when Kai shows up just in time to see all of this shit going down.
Yeah,
and
he wasn't supposed to, like, Severus isn't the end goal. Severus was just like the first, the starter body. He needed a body that was like actually good for shit.
And so he's like kind of weak.
Yeah, he's kind of weak.
Yeah, but when Kai shows up, he reveals that he was hoping that it was going to be the Space Marine, but Kai's was kind of his contingency plan. And basically, he's been whispering in both of their ears. This whole time, Kai's has been assuming the Montau thing, the bloodlust that's been taking him, is his own problem, that he's fucked up, but it has been the demon this entire time giving him powers. And that's also why he's suddenly this goddamn Superman with a talent for murder and everything like that. So that's the explanation for why you get a first level character suddenly coming out and snapping the Tarask's neck.
Just a lot of boons.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Just all the boons. All the boons. So Kai starts to lose his shit, and then the Aeon, who is kind of like being held in stasis above them, like kind of gives him this weird, it's like a cleric spell of peace, basically.
Right. Clears his mind.
Clears his mind, and Kai's shoots Severus, which
right through the chest.
right through the chest. And in chapter 9, which happens next, we find out that might have been the wrong thing to do, because the blood of Severus falling into the ritual chamber completes the ritual.
Yep.
So when the ritual completes, the Aeon, who's been held up by the ritual itself and the power stuff, drops from a great height
And dies.
just
Unceremoniously falls to his death.
just falls to his death, and Tarthax is summoned fully, and Kais loses his shit, because everything he's been doing since chapter 1, all of his friends dying.
It's been pointless.
It's been pointless.
So he shoots all of his bullets into Tarkax.
Yeah. Which, I mean, what would you do?
What would you do? Doesn't do anything.
Now, and then we get to, he remembers the advice that Constantine gave him, which is there are 4 shrines for each of the gods, and he's got to blow them up, basically. And when he breaks them, he'll be able to have a moment to get behind the shield or whatever. It's the most video game part of this book. And Kevin, it's not in the video game.
What?
Yeah.
I was shocked. I was like, this is so video gamey.
It is the most video game, because there are 4 little rooms, 4 little chambers, and we get a display from each of the different forms of the demon. Like when he starts out as like Nurgle, and so he's like, he's filled with these horrible little infections and corruptions that are going after him. Artius comes in to help him get them all killed. Maybe that wasn't the first one. It doesn't matter. So he goes and finds that shrine, blows it up, and then comes back and can shoot him, blow a few holes in him, and then he turns into Corn, so he's got a huge axe and fangs and that kind of. So he blows that one up. Artius gets knocked out after he helps. He's basically, he's good to help him. He saves his bacon and then gets knocked out. And Kai's. And that's not how the final boss.
Yeah,
happens.
I'm clicking through the final boss fight, and it's
just a Sneech demon.
It's just a Sneech demon, and I was like,
change.
Okay,
it's just you circling around him, shooting him.
I was like, okay, I recognize that thing. That thing was a mini boss a bunch of times in Bolt Gun.
Yep. And that's it. And they do point out in the book that this demon does serve Sneech specifically, even though he is undivided. But yeah, that's it. It's the most video game ass thing in this book.
It makes me think that they gave him an outline of what you were doing in the game,
maybe,
and then had to make changes to the game based on something.
Yeah, that's the only explanation that makes any sense, because it's just so strange. Because I was a little disappointed at this sequence, because we've talked about, for this being a video game adaptation, at least he hasn't gone down the road of some of the Halo books, early Halo books anyway, that we've read, and some of the other ones we've read, where it's like literally just a walkthrough of the game, no matter how tedious. And I was like, oh, well, this is just a walk. This is like basically, how do I beat the final boss in the game? Right. And I went and found the playthrough that I had been watching slowly, and I got to that part. It's not what you do. Nearly this complicated. It's a pretty straightforward fight. In fact, it's pretty boring.
Is the Titan in the game?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But I think you just bomb it. Yeah. So at this point, the demon has taken on a Corn aspect, and Kais is losing his fucking mind and basically just gives in to all of his hatred and his anger and his fury, and bellows blood for the blood god. Which, holy fucking shit, that's weird.
Yeah.
and just loses it. He sees the demon as his father.
And he shoots his father.
Yep.
He's like, I've never gotten to kill my father in real life.
Never got to kill him.
But 1,000 times in my head.
So that's fun. Loses an arm. gets the axe chopped right through his arm, and
Luke's a goddamn armed.
Yeah, he's just and he like holding his stump, trying to.
He is. It's that Carl Weathers scene in Predator.
That's when he exactly it. Yes. Loses his fucking arm,
but still shooting.
Still shooting. He gets some distance, and he's kind of ready. Just all right, let's just let it happen. And Lucia gets through to him on his comm, and they start. And they talk, and he says, "You knew my dad, right?" And Lucia's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, "My dad was fucking pretty cool, right? Like, he was perfect. He was like the perfect
warrior."
warrior.
No, your dad was a fucking dumbass.
Yeah, your dad was an asshole. He sucked. Like he knew how to give good speeches and all that shit, but like he killed a recruit once for just like disobeying his orders, and he was like, yeah, but he died like bravely on the battlefield. He's like, no, man, we were fighting Tyranids. A big Tyranid dented his armor, and we needed to go back, and he wanted vengeance for his armor being dented. So he ran into this fight and got slaughtered. Your dad was an idiot. Fuck your dad. And he tells her, he's like,
and I love this because Lucia's like, also the like his only good idea was the Great Machine. It doesn't actually exist. The path, the one true path, doesn't actually exist. None of that fucking actually exists.
Yeah,
we're just try.
We're just doing our best.
It's just try to do your best.
Yeah,
snap out of it, dude.
And it works.
And it works. Kais is like, oh, I'm not an idiot. And he's like, your dad did much worse things.
Yeah. It's like watching those, you go on TikTok and you watch these ex-evangelicals tell their story, right. And you're like, oh, I see. That's how it happened.
Yeah.
So he takes, and by the way, this entire time, they've referenced every now and then the fact that a dummy bolt shell is still in his helmet, that he's just left it embedded in his helmet this whole time. He's out of ammo, he's out of everything. So what do you think he does? He takes his helmet off and throws it at the demon, and the heat of the demon sets off the bolt shell that's been embedded in his helmet.
And detonates the final shrine.
Yep, just blows him to hell. And as Kais passes out, Lucia and their crisis suit crew comes in and cleans up basically after him.
Yep.
And that's the end of chapter 9. And finally, we get to the epilogue. It starts with Ardias. Well, it starts with the demon basically returning to the Imperium, basically basically going back to where all the demons are. And it is kind of a cool thing because it points out that like this is just one demon among countless demons, and he's not even dead. You just got rid of him for now. So we get a brief paragraph of that. We get to Ardias, who has survived. He woke up unconscious in the cavern, got teleported out of there. They watch the Tau flotillas leave, and he goes, fucking let them go. We'll deal with them later. And he orders an exterminatus on the planet, so they send virus bombs down and just blow it to shit.
He's like, destroy the planet, and they're like, sir, and he's like, just
fucking,
do it.
Just fucking end this.
Every inch of it, glass it, please.
Glass it. So they just say fuck this planet and take care of it. And then we cut to Tau, the planet, the home base. And Lucia has gathered a couple of Kai's old friends, who he had assumed were dead, and takes them to basically a sanatorium where they're keeping Kai's, and they get to watch him, and they're shocked. We don't get like details on what they're seeing, but they're very shocked at how changed he is. He's not doing well. And he wants them to see, and they're like, why are you showing us this? You could have just told us. And he says, well, I want you to see it because he's a hero. He sacrificed. He went too far. He went too deep into all this shit so that other people could survive. And now he's just a shell. And maybe he'll get back to where he was, but maybe not. Yeah. And the book ends with Kai's in the asylum, basically strapped to a bed, daydreaming. When he closes his eyes, he imagines killing and murdering and war. and he's left there, and they've left the display wafer from his father, which ended with pride, which is something that always confused him a little bit, because the whole point of everything is that they're supposed to be gears and cogs in the machine. So how can you have pride? And so it's kind of cruel. He says Kai sees it as appropriate, but it's kind of this cruel little fuck you. It's like, here's another existential meltdown for you on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And that's the end. That's the end of the book. Our hero is in the funny farm.
He killed thousands of people probably over the course of one day. This all happens in one day, by the way. This is not like multiple days. Ardius has obviously the mental this is just like what he was bred for. So
that's
he's
like literally he has
no compunction with anything that happens that day, except for the fact that he's like, yes, let the Tau live. No, do not let this planet exist anymore.
That's the extent of Ardius's learning. Like, he's like, I learned that a Tau can be pretty cool.
Sometimes, but I'll kill him.
I'm still going to kill him when I get my first opportunity. But that's but this Tau, and that was one of the themes they talked about, where you can't be ready for all of this, and no matter how successful he was, he paid the price in a big way. So that's Warhammer 40,000 Fire Warrior. Kevin, what'd you think?
I liked it. I think the last third. It was weird. I was going to text you this, but I was like, nah, I'll wait to see how it plays out. I was like, okay, the last third, there's just like violence, just a lot of violence, and it just wasn't very interesting necessarily. It was just like, more explosions.
Right. Yeah. It was the most video game of.
It gets very video gamey at the end there.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, hey, this all. Like, in terms of war is hell, this all fucking sucks. Also, power is corrupting, all that thing. Like, it was good in that front where, everybody who is seeking power or seeking something like validation through violence or what have you ends up paying a price by the end, like... Ardius is alive, but the fleet, his personal fleet got fucked up.
Oh yeah.
And he is he's very wounded for an Ultramarine. Like, he doesn't even have his armor. He can't. I don't even think he has his armor on at the end. Like, he's just standing there. Yeah. Kai's is institutionalized.
He's gone. Kai's ain't here anymore.
Severus and all his crew is dead, and I think Tarkax, who I thought that was interesting. There's a really brief scene that I liked, where he gets sent basically. So he was in a prison. Not like...
Yes, he wasn't back in the warp.
He wasn't back in the warp. But as soon as he got released back into the warp, he lost his memories and just became...
Yeah.
So the thing in the warp thought of glory. It was surrounded by 1,000,000 billion of its kind, frothing and fizzing, spawning like fish, running together in the ether, dragging their claws of nothingness against reality with scant hope of ever breaching the distance between the two. In this place of madness, a memory was difficult to hold. Thoughts were unfocused, uncontrollable things, impossible to grasp and concentrate upon. Nonetheless, struggling against the innumerable tide of its fellows, the warp thing raced across the vastness of the Empyrean and remembered, or perhaps dreamed, of the one time that it had been Tarkax, changer of ways, devotees of Tzeentch, Daemon Lord of Chaos. So it's like, it suffers personality death, basically.
Right. Yeah.
At the end, because basically it was a warp demon who got into a space marine and then was banished into a prison So it had a consistent existence for 10,000 years, and then gets sent once it's banished back into the warp. It's like, oh well, it's no more different than any other thing in the warp.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's just a piece of it.
It's just a piece of it.
It is actually a cog in a machine there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I agree. I think that was a really interesting moment. Yeah, I agree. Some of the changes were interesting. I think as far as a video game adaptation, it's pretty successful. It does a pretty good job of taking things that changing the source material enough to make for an entertaining book. Because Lord knows he had a lot of work to do. He added a lot of shit to make this into a book.
Right.
And I think he succeeded in that sense. I think as a Warhammer book, it's a little weak and it's tough because I mentioned before, I questioned the notion of bringing in all of the chaos beings, like kind of mushing everything in there. And I guess the motivation would be because this might be a lot of people's first introduction to Warhammer. Like, 'cause theoretically, they would have played the game and they would have picked this up.
Right.
But the problem is it also goes into a lot of esoterica about the Tau, which is not a hugely popular race, and like, it's weird. It's kind of trying to have it both ways because it goes into like the really complex minutia of stuff that you find in 40K. But then it has these moments where like, and here's all the chaos gods. Let's just throw them in so everyone's
represented. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so some weird, you got random ass Iron Warriors in there that we never see again. We get, it's just, it gets I hate to use this term, but it gets a little chaotic to the point where it's just like, I don't know.
It's a hat on a hat.
It's a hat on a hat. Yeah. But honestly, but still, but as far as adapting this game, and especially now having watched a playthrough of the game, there's nothing to complain about as far as adapting that game.
I mean, in terms of gap between quality of game and quality of book, I think this is probably the biggest.
Huge
upward, like in the upwards.
Yes.
Like we've had the inverse, like Dead Space, for example, is like the inverse of that. But we've never had a book that was so much better than the game.
Oh, it took a very mediocre PS2 era shooter and gave
made a
it
book
something.
That could be, it's in the Warhammer canon.
It is. Oh, yes, absolutely. I don't think I think it's not the best Warhammer 40K book I've ever read, but it's not. But it belongs there.
Yeah,
it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb.
Right.
And it's 400 pages long.
Yeah.
And it took 4 hours to watch the gameplay from beginning to end.
Right.
So kudos to fucking Spurrier in that sense.
For turning that game into this book.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Anytime I'd find something, I go, that's a weird choice. I go,
it's a weird choice.
It's still a fucking amazing adaptation.
It's a choice that is probably a little bit better than the game was.
Yeah.
But yeah. By the way, I think I'm really excited for Space Marine 2.
Oh yeah?
I think I'm excited at this point. Just like reading this book just whet my appetite for.
Same. It's I can't not get all excited for this shit based on that, and it looks fucking tight. The game looks great.
Yeah.
So pretty.
So pretty.
Yeah. So I'm
late 2023. Give me a date, God damn it!
I know, right? So
they've been releasing like trailers and gameplay footage without like an official date.
Yeah. I want it to be this year, but at the same time, I'm not holding my breath at this point.
Yeah, and it's fine if it comes out next year. This year's
there's
plenty of stuff.
There's a CRPG set in 40K that comes out the first week of December, which is very frustrating for me.
What? Because you have a baby on the way.
I have a baby on the way. And
kid couldn't have picked a worse fucking time, huh?
Just the timing is awful. It's called Rogue Trader. And looks pretty cool. Maybe it's better this way, though. Maybe it's better that I don't play a game like that so soon after Baldur's Gate 3 so that I don't hold it too close to that comparison.
Wow, the artwork is way too colorful.
Too much joy.
Too much joy in this artwork.
Too much joy.
But no, I'll probably get this. Ooh, it's got like the straight up CRPG lower. Oh boy,
it looks beautiful. It looks absolutely beautiful.
That's what I want.
Well, speaking of that, Kevin, that just leaves me with a single question for you.
Yeah. What do you got?
What are you playing?
Oh, I was not expecting that question.
I know. Especially not in my voice.
Okay, to be honest, this past week or so just been Marvel snapping. I have been really deep into Marvel Snap, focusing on. I wanted to get some new collectors. What are they called? The purple ones, not the ones with the good stuff in it.
Yeah. The
you know
the
what
new
I mean.
you hit a certain point value and you get them.
Yeah, and you either get a variant or one of 3 like cards that you want. And, As of right now, it is who is
Lady
up there?
Deathstrike. I know because I'm trying to get
Lady
her.
Deathstrike, X-23, and Man Thing. Was that it?
Yeah, Man Thing. Yeah, here's a new card.
Yeah, and Lady Deathstrike and Man Thing are like pretty similar in terms of like kill the thing or depower the thing.
Right.
Weaker than this. So
I've been finding some success with Lady Deathstrike.
Oh really?
Yeah. She's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I've been playing. I'm at that point where I'm just like, I always play the season for a bit.
Yep.
And then I spend the first half of the season just playing, trying to get my rank up.
Yeah.
And then the second half of the season just fucking around with different decks, like
That's
experimenting with decks.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's why I don't think I'm ever going to hit infinite, because I'm just I'm too interested in like figuring out like little mechanical wrinkles with decks.
Yeah.
I was like, but what if I do this? What if
I try this? No, I'm with you. I absolutely get that.
I have like, and it's so basically I'll have a couple of decks. I don't keep a deck until it's named, right?
Okay.
So I'll have a couple decks that are named, they're tried and true. If I ever just want to play and win at a reasonable rate, I go back to them.
Yeah.
And then I have like a dozen decks that are just called Deck 7, Deck 8, Deck 9. Because
things.
I'm just trying things, and I'm probably going to delete them, after a few hands if it doesn't seem like they're working, or the combo that's intended is just too impossible to hit. I was watching this one YouTuber made a 6-card Galactus combo.
Okay.
It required 6 cards to pull off, and it was hilarious. Like he had to play for an hour and a half in order to do it once.
Oh my god. That's devotion to a one-trick pony kind of thing.
It required you to have like a 6-card combo is nearly impossible in Marvel Snap to pull off over the course of what's probably going to be 3 turns, and you had to have the right cards in your hand at each point.
That is insane.
But it had something to do. It had something to do with. It was a Galactus deck, but the way he was getting it so that Galactus would win was the funny part. This is the same YouTuber. His name's Regis Kilbin. And he just does card games. And he did a video on don't have a powerful deck, just steal theirs. And it's a deck built with like Mantis, Cable, White Queen, Morph.
That's funny. That is funny.
It's just based on taking the opponent's cards.
That's pretty funny.
And
like that.
Leader.
And Loki. And oh, yeah. Oh, I like that. That's fun. I like that. That's
It's a lot of fun.
That's got to be so confusing to fucking play against. Oh, my God.
Yeah. It's every match is a mirror match.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I've been playing.
Nice.
Phil, oh, and by the way, just what I've been watching, for those of you who forgot, this past Friday was Friday the 13th, and that means Mike Flanagan's new series is out, The Fall of the House of Usher.
Ooh, yeah.
And every episode is an adaptation of... So it's one continuous story, but what happens in every episode is an adaptation of a Poe story. So,
I didn't know that. Okay, that's
yeah,
cool.
it's so the second episode that we just watched was Mask of the Red Death.
Oh shit, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yes, but it all continues the same story, and it's got his same cast that he's always using. You got Rahul Kohli is in there. Carla Gugino is in there as a sexy ghost lady killer. So good stuff.
That definitely looks worth watching.
Yeah. Phil, what are you playing?
I've been playing some short experiences. Most notably, I finished Underground Blossom, and which is a Rusty Lake game.
Okay.
And I fucking love Rusty Lake games. For anyone who doesn't know, they're these strange puzzle games that seem to have some kind of underlying creepy storyline, but I'm not holding my breath on it being in any way sensible. It's just got a lot of atmosphere, very strange, very folk horror-y, and the puzzles are very clever and fun. The whole thing took like 3 hours to finish, and it was very satisfying. And after you finish the main thing, you can go back and do all these other challenges, and it's very spooky and charming in the way that Rusty Lake games always are. I really liked that one. I highly recommend it.
Good.
And then I played and finished Amanda the Adventurer. Have you heard of that one?
No.
This is one of your indie horror games, which I wasn't so sure about when I first saw it, because it's got like live streamer bait written all over it. So I was expecting it to be. I wasn't expecting it to be something I gave a shit about, but I'd had it recommended by a few people, and I looked at it, and basically the idea is that you have got this tape of an old Dora the Explorer kind of show called Amanda the Adventurer, and you watch the tapes in this attic, and it's got a little glitch horror, and things start to go wrong, and there's this sense of unease and all that shit.
Sure.
And you get clues, and then there's a puzzle after you watch the tape. And to get the next tape, there are clues within that first tape, and stuff in the attic that you've got to put together. Like someone mentions, like, we're baking this pie for this long at this temperature, and so you find there's a little toy oven in the attic, and you do what they said, and boom, you make it the way they talked about, and then the next video comes out, and there are like 4 different endings. I got them all, and that it also took about 3 or 4 hours to beat.
Yeah.
Interesting, weird, and it didn't, and it wasn't the shitty jump scare fueled low effort horror game I kind of expected it was going to be. It does have some real heart to it, and like Underground Blossom, it seems it has this kind of underlying strange storyline, that kind of FNAF style. Like if you read between the lines, you can, and like Underground Blossom, I'm not so sure I buy the idea that it holds together, but it's still very entertaining and a good way to spend an afternoon.
Right.
And I started the Separate Ways DLC for Resident Evil 4.
Nice.
And it's more Resident Evil with a Batman claw.
Oh, cool.
You get to, and so I'm enjoying that. So,
Yeah,
but that's it. That's
I have it. I've been meaning to start it. I have it. It's
good.
Sitting there, ready for me.
It's pretty good. That's it. Like it's more Resident Evil 4, which who could complain about that?
Who could complain about that?
Nobody.
No one. At all. Ever.
Well, that's me. That's me.
That's you. All right. Well, that's awesome. I think. Is Amanda the Explorer playing Dora, or Amanda the Adventurer playing Dora the Explorer?
Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay,
yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, it's like, and they do that, and it's kind of funny because they do that thing where Dora Explorer would like talk to you through the thing,
right?
And in game, sometimes they say, what's your favorite whatever, and there's just silence, and I would of course answer them because it's funny. But then every now and then they'll ask something, and you'll get a prompt to type something in,
right?
And you can type all kinds of things, but you'll get different answers based on what you type, and sometimes if you're paying attention to the storyline and everything like that, they said because like there's this. Here's a little spoiler for people. If you're playing this game, you're on a farm at one point, and they ask you, and they've got chickens or something like that, and they say, "What's the daddy called?" And you have enough room to write in rooster, but you find out that the creator of the show, who based this show on his daughter, his name is Sam, and so I typed in Sam, and Amanda the Adventurer goes, Why did you say that? Like, it starts kind of freaking out a little bit. I was like, it's got a lot of little moments like that.
Like that.
Yeah. I thought it was worth it. And that one was like $8 too. And that was, to me, totally worth it.
Nice.
I'm really getting to the point, I think, because of my age, that like these little bite-sized adventures that take 3, 4, maybe 5 hours, like that is perfect for me right now.
Right.
I'm really enjoying it. So when I'll see the critiques or something like that, and they'll say, "Oh, it's only 4 hours long," and I'm like, "Perfect, sign me up."
Phil,
I'm in.
what about Baldur's Gate 4?
That's not coming out. Based on my math, that's not coming out until I'm dead.
What about Rogue Trader?
Oh, Rogue Trader! No, not Rogue Trader!
What about the CRPGs want you back, Phil?
Oh God, they miss me. They do miss me. Elder Scrolls 6. What are you gonna do?
Elder Scrolls 6 is gonna Jesus Christ. It's gonna be. You're gonna see that mountain and you can climb it.
Yeah, sure. But I don't want to climb the mountain. I want to solve weird puzzles in a subway. That's Underground Blossom.
All right, that'll do it for tonight's episode. If you want to follow us on your social medias, go to @PixelitPod, wherever you are. Just plug that into the search bar. You're gonna get us. If you want to give us money,
yes,
or just follow us in general, you can go to pixelitpod.com, which takes you to our Patreon. And there you can follow us, or you can join our $1 tier, our $5 tier, our $10 tier. Speaking of $10 tier. Speaking of $10 tier, you get a shout out in every episode. And today we are shouting out our member of the $10 tier, Friendly Friend.
Friendly Friend.
Friendly Friend. Thank you
friend
for being a friend.
Indeed.
Thank you for being a friend.
It's too good, Kevin. We're gonna
travel down the road and back again.
We're gonna get copyright infringement on us.
Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. Bum bum bum.
And if you're through my party. Oh God, I'm scared the fuck out of Jones.
And invited everyone you knew. You would see the biggest gift would be from me. And in top on top would say thank you for being a friend. The tag on, what's it say? There's something on top.
I'm amazed that you had that much. That was really impressive.
And the card on top would say thank you for being a friend. There it is.
There it is. Nailed it.
Boom, 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 boom. So thank you for being a friendly friend.
Thank you. I'm not going to sing that every single time.
Not going to sing that every single time. Maybe every new patron that joins that layer will sing thank you for being a friend.
Or some sort of theme-related song.
Or some sort of theme-related song.
Yeah.
Or friend, yeah.
Those are the words I was trying to use.
Not the Friends related. Not the Friends theme song, though.
No, but maybe like Queen,
yeah.
You know, my best friend. Something like that.
Maybe the Cheers song.
We could do
sometimes you want to go.
MASH, Suicide is Painless.
So Suicide is Painless but for MASH, that's always a good.
It's always that's talks of friendship, I think.
'Cause suicide is painless. The word version is not in the show. It's just maybe was it in the movie?
Maybe it was.
I don't know. We're really off the rails, and I'm just supposed to be closing the episode out. Patreon.com/pixelitpod or pixelit.com takes you to the same place. You can follow for free or join one of our tiers. On the next episode, we're doing more stuff.
We're doing more stuff. We're doing a movie.
It's a movie episode.
Yeah, it's a movie episode.
You know, come by. Sit, hang around, listen.
Find out what movie we're watching.
What movie?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Good night.
Good night.